Next up, we'll invite Ben Craig, Terry O'Neill, and Chris Wilson. So we'll start with the chamber post question. What is your vision for the future of the Coquitlam area around SkyTrain? Chris, you will have 1 minute to respond.
We need an amazing, complete, walkable community. It's extremely frustrating that we don't actually have a solid plan for that area. We're losing so much of our low-cost rental housing in that area, and we don't even have a rental replacement policy at this point. So it's extremely frustrating to me. I think we need to work extremely hard over the next while to develop that rental replacement policy, to work with developers so that we can actually replace some of that rental housing. And the other part of it is the whole commercial side of it. Morguard owns that whole strip mall, and we have to really work with them. We can have an amazing community that's even better than Newport Village because they own so much space, but we have to work with them to make sure that they have the same kind of vision that our community has. And that'll come once we have our community plan done and once we get to work with them.
Thank you, Chris. Terry, you have 1 minute to respond to the question.
Yeah, thank goodness we actually have three plans in place for Coquitlam: the old community plan, the new transit-oriented development strategy, and we have neighborhood development guidelines that give us a vision of what we want it to look like. And we're going to see a lot of high density right around the SkyTrain station, and more medium density as it spirals out from there. Around the high density, the key, and somebody mentioned this earlier tonight, is making sure that the platforms that those high-density condo towers or rental towers are built on, that those platforms have commercial space, restaurants, all sorts to animate the street, to bring it to life. We've got a vision there to make sure there are little parks in there, benches, trees, little public art as well in there. So I think it's very exciting for us to look forward to. There's going to be a lot of change in the coming years, without a doubt, but I think it's going to be a change for the better.
Thank you, Terry. Ben, you have 1 minute to respond to the question.
Thanks. With due respect, Councillor O'Neill, there is no vision for Coquitlam right now. The last community update was issued in 2002. Didn't factor in the thousands of new residents that are coming to the region, nor the Evergreen line. And as it stands with City Hall, they're approving a high-rise here and a high-rise there and a high-rise there without an overarching plan in place. Now, I'm a financial planner. I wouldn't dream of making an individual recommendation to you without an overall understanding of your financial position. I think that's the approach that City Hall has to take here. There has to be, we can't just approve these high-rises in isolation. We have to approve them in the context of a plan. I've been for Coquitlam. I live in Coquitlam, so I think a lot about this. I see an area with that retains a tight community feel to it, you know? More wood and brick than glass and steel. I see a cultural array of restaurants there, but local businesses. And a commercial hub, but not big box, you know, local retailers to give our local industry business. Perhaps a high-tech sector that dwells from SFU.
Thank you, Ben. That's 1 minute.
So, thank you.
Chris, if you'd like to pose a question on vision for the future of the Coquitlam area to the other candidates, you have 30 seconds to do so.
We have a real shortage of low-cost rental housing in our city. And through the development of the Coquitlam area, we're going to be displacing almost 700 families and elderly people who are low-income people and need a place to live. So my question is, what will you do to, where do you think those low-income families should go once we displace them?
Yeah,
Terry, you have 30 seconds to respond to that
Thank you. I'm
question.
very happy to see that the developers on their own and with the guidance of the city's guidelines have a rental replacement in place, that they are helping people move. We also know that up to 40% of the condominium towers are going to, the units in the towers are going to be rented out. We also know that in the surrounding areas, it's replete with basement suites. So there's a lot of rental. There's actually more rental in Coquitlam now than there's ever been.
Thank you, Terry. That's 30 seconds. Ben, you have 30 seconds to respond to the question.
Thank you. So Coquitlam holds about 25% of the total rental stock in our city, right there in my region. And I think we have a tremendous opportunity in the coming years to partner with developers and make sure that not one of our rental units is displaced. But we have to send a strong message to developers in this, not just in Coquitlam, but the rest of the city, that it's not just about building high density to accommodate market demand. It's about joining a community. It's about fitting into that
Thank
community.
you, Ben. That's 30 seconds.
Better. Thank you.
Thank you. Terry, you have 30 seconds to pose a question on the future of the Coquitlam area around SkyTrain.
Yes, I'd like to know from Mr. Craig, and I think Mr. Ben Craig and Mr. Wilson, about how specific do you think the planning should be? You said that there's no, that we don't have a specific plan for exactly where the skyscrapers could go or exactly where the condo towers should go. Do you want us to micromanage every little bit? Do you want us to actually develop those buildings? Or do you want us to do what cities all around the world do and have zoning in place?
Thank you, Terry. Ben, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. You know, we do have a community plan in place, but it's from 2002. And we're waiting to get this community plan updated, and I'm involved in that process. We won't see a plan there for another 2-3 years. By 2-3 years' time, we're going to see thousands of new residents in that area. That, to me, is putting the cart before the horse. The city did a very clever thing a few years ago and introduced something called the transit development strategy, transit-oriented development strategy, which essentially gives a green light to high density around SkyTrain stations without a community plan in place. That was, to me, a move that
Thank you,
got
Ben.
ahead
That's
of
30
the
seconds.
community. Thank you.
Chris, if you'd like to respond, you have 30 seconds.
I think if you compare Newport Village to our town center, you see a great, complete community in Newport, and you see our town center, which is just a hodgepodge of buildings, because we don't have a concrete plan. And I think what we could do in Coquitlam with a very specific plan is to have a community that's even better than Newport Village. So I think it should be specific.
Thank you, Chris. Ben, you have 30 seconds to pose a question on the future of the Coquitlam area around SkyTrain.
So I'd like to ask our two councillors how it came about that our Coquitlam Community Plan, which is clearly stale dated from 2002, how it came about that we've managed to approve thousands of new residents into the area through the transit development strategy without a community plan in place. How did that come about, and what was the stream of consciousness that came to that? Thank you. Councillor O'Neill?
Thank you, Ben. Actually, Chris will answer the question first, please. 30 seconds.
In my year on council, I've seen that all we do in our city is react. And I think we have to have a much stronger vision. We have to put more resources in so that we can get ahead of the game and not have a situation like this where we've known for 5 years what the route's going to be and we don't have a plan in place that is satisfying for all residents in that area. So really, for me, it's a stronger vision for the city. It's bringing more business to our community, and it's getting ahead of the ball.
Thank you very much, Chris. Terry, you have 30 seconds.
So we're getting another contradiction in terms here, like a 0% increase that we heard earlier tonight. But 0% is not an increase. You say there's no plan, but there's an old plan. Oh, there's no plan, but there's a new TDS. You know, can't have it both ways here. There are plans in place. That plan is being updated. Those decisions were made on the basis of the plans that are in place. 2 plans passed by council after a lot of public consultation, including...
Thank you, Terry. That's 30 seconds. We will now move to a pigeonhole posed question. So, Chris Wilson will invite you to answer the question of what are your views on the future of the Riverview lands? You have 1 minute to do so.
I'm really excited about the potential of Riverview. There's a great consultation process going on right now that the province is doing. It's very broad, and it's talking a lot about more mental health treatment. It's talking about addictions treatment. It's talking about a wellness center. And to me, that's what our community wants. That's what our community needs. That's what the whole Lower Mainland needs.
Chris, you can go ahead and answer the question the way it's posed, not from the audience.
We are paying for it right now in the costs to our taxpayers. It costs more for somebody to live on the streets and deal with all their mental health issues than it does to house them. So in my opinion, it's an investment in the future. It's about a caring society, and it's about showing people that you care about the people in your community.
I'll just take that ball and run with it. Well stated. If there's one thing that I've become really educated on since I got on council in 3 years, it is Riverview. And I've become a big convert to the vision that the city has endorsed for Riverview. You know, we spent a lot of time talking. There was a great report a decade ago and another report that's just come out that puts forward our visions for a mental health and a wellness society, wellness structures there. At the same time, preserving the amazing landscape that's there and the amazing trees that are there. So we have an amazing opportunity, another word, amazing, because the provincial government, unlike all around the province, has decided decided not to sell this land off, but to listen to Coquitlam, because we've taken a strong position to find out what we want to do with it. And they've said repeatedly that they're going to listen, and they're listening to you, and they're listening to us, and I think that we're going to have really an amazing place there in a few years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So if we could hold the applause, please. Ben, you have 1 minute to respond.
Thank you. So the Riverview lands, I understand that there was a fairly expensive paper written recently about the future of the plan, future of the lands, which contains some pretty grandiose ideas about a fabulous world-class facility, which sounds terrific on paper, but we have to be honest here, folks. We have to balance the needs of the taxpayer with the needs of our mentally ill. You know, I believe that it is in our moral interest to take care of our mentally challenged in the early stages, because it costs society less money in the long term. However, we need to make sure that this facility doesn't continue to be, a drain on our resources. So I believe that we can develop the perimeter of Riverview and create that world-class facility paid for by development on the perimeter. I know it's a bad word and fairly unpopular, but we have to be realistic here, folks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you to Chris Wilson, Sarah Neal, and Ben Craig. You may return to your seats. We are now complete with this section. We now have Benita Zerillo, Dennis Marsden, and Brent Asmundson. We'll start with the chamber question, which is: the Evergreen line is currently designed to bring people out of Coquitlam in the morning and back in the evening. How can the city facilitate two-way traffic on the Evergreen line? Benita, if you'd like to answer, 1 minute.
Well, to start with, I'm under the impression that Transit has already started their planning for bus connections at the key times, so that would be the first one. The second one is the vision for Coquitlam, and as we have Coquitlam right now, is that people won't leave Coquitlam every morning and come home every night. The vision is to move towards a city that is totally inclusive, where people can live, work, and play. And hopefully that the SkyTrain will be used throughout the day. It may even be used just to go from Coquitlam right to town center. So I'm very, very hopeful, and this is where I'm positioned, and everyone that I'm speaking to on the doorstep is positioned is let's not leave in the morning and come home in the evening.
Thank you, Benita. Dennis, you have 1 minute to respond.
That's a great question. I think Coquitlam's done a great job of attracting retail jobs. What we need to do is take a look at the areas around our transit, around the Evergreen lines, and ensure that in the towers that we're building there, we are including a component of office space. I was talking with a gentleman recently. It was the 25,000 square feet of office space in Coquitlam, where he was going to have about 100 people, typically making about $60,000 to $80,000 a year. And we don't have the space for it. So when we look at these transit hubs, this is the opportunity to build the office space that is going to attract the businesses that are actually going to pay the salaries necessary that we can actually afford to live, work, and play here in Coquitlam. So it's all about the opportunities that we put together, the vision that we have when the developers come calling. We tell them this is the direction that we would like to go.
Thank you, Dennis. The question is, the Evergreen line is currently designed to bring people out of Coquitlam in the morning and back in the evening. How can the city facilitate two-way traffic on the Evergreen line?
Facilitate two-way traffic on the Evergreen line? We're trying to keep people in Coquitlam. We have a plan through the city of Coquitlam to attract jobs. We have an economic development manager working on bringing jobs, retaining jobs, bringing jobs in Coquitlam so people don't have to live in this community. As for transit and moving people to and from SkyTrain, we need to work and lobby TransLink for better bus service to get people to SkyTrain, better connections, better parking, so people have a greater ease of getting to the stations and getting to their destination where they need to go. People have many different needs. If they're working here, they may have meetings in Burnaby, Vancouver. They need quick, easy access. We need to reduce the congestion on our roads. Better transit, more service, more bus service connecting to the stations is a way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Benita, you now have 30 seconds to pose a question to the other candidates on the topic.
Great. My question relates to the SkyTrain stations. Is that going to fall within? Would you support sharing some of the Pinetree corridor funding to enhance what's happening at the Coquitlam area?
Thank you, Benita. Dennis, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Are you referring to the development cost charges that are being utilized?
I'm referring to the $14 million that's being budgeted just for the Pinetree corridor. Would you be willing to share some of that with Coquitlam to see something happening over there?
I think if you've looked at the vision for the lot, for Pinetree, when I first looked at it, I heard $14 million. It scared the crap out of me. You know, it's a lot of money. It's developer money. It was designed to try and beautify the area and try and create an area that we can attract people to, that we can develop a community section that will serve as a focal point of our downtown core. So I think there's certainly a significant development money available to go in that direction. And
Dennis, that's 30 seconds. Brent, you have 30 seconds to respond to Benita's question.
There are two separate needs. I think the need is the fact in the Coquitlam area, the guideway work, the $4 million being spent there is at the center of the roadway in a median. In the Pinetree area, we have a pathway, walkway connecting all the way up Pinetree from Guildford, and we're making it as best as possible in that area. They're two different things, two different costs. They're not costing the taxpayer anyway. They're coming from development cost charges and from casino and other revenues, not the taxpayer. But they're two different things. One's built down the center. You can't make pathways and walkways the same thing.
Thank you, Brent. That's 30 seconds. Dennis, you have 30 seconds to pose a question on the topic of the candidates.
the question was with regards to two-way traffic, which would indicate actual employment generation in the town center area. So I'd like to ask, what is your specific plan to develop employment opportunities in the town center area?
Thank you very much. Brent, you have 30 seconds to respond to this question.
We have been working and trying to streamline our city and our city operations to make our city the best and most friendliest place in the world, in the area to live, to work, I should say. We, in 2013, won the provincial award, 5 cities, for the Open for Business Award. We must continue to make our city more effective and attracting businesses in how we operate and how we streamline our processes. We're presently going through our industrial land from 9 zones down to 3 zones to make it more easier for developers to come in.
Thank you, Brent. That's 30 seconds. Bonita, you have 30 seconds to respond to the question.
I've got quite a few, but I'll just mention, first of all, limiting the mobile food trucks in the core. We need to make sure that we have steady restaurants that can make it, so definitely limiting that. Also some leniency on paid parking in town center right now. We need to be helping those businesses over the first 2 or 3 years, or before the SkyTrain gets here, so that they're still here when the SkyTrain gets here. The other thing is, I think as a council and mayor, we need to be out recruiting companies, businesses to come to Coquitlam, and we just haven't, I haven't seen that done.
Thank you, Bonita. That's 30 seconds. Brent, you have 30 seconds to pose a question to the candidates on the topic.
The question is, how do we get more businesses and how do we grow jobs in this community? What are your specific plans and ideas to attract businesses and grow jobs in this community?
Thank you, Brent. Bonita, you have 30 seconds to respond.
It starts with a marketing plan. We have QNet fiber optic. We're not using it to its fullest capacity. It's probably the most economy generating thing that we can bring to Coquitlam right now in regards to good paying jobs. We can bring lots of retail to Coquitlam. We can probably bring it pretty easily, but it will not feed a family. The QNet needs to be explored. We need a marketing plan, and we need a strong leader of our city that will go out and recruit business to Coquitlam the way other cities are doing around us.
Thank you, Bonita. Dennis, you have 30 seconds to respond to the question.
We're fortunate. We've got an incredibly intelligent and talented manager of economic development. And there's companies out there, site selection companies, that go and they work with companies that are looking to relocate. Our role is not for council to run out and do it. We're already paying a staff member to do that. So let's give him the tools necessary to go out and market Coquitlam to ensure that he's presenting us in a way that businesses look and say, there's some place for me to come to. It is truly business friendly, and the tax.
Thank you, Dennis. That's 30 seconds. Dennis, thank you. If we could hold it for next please, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Bonita, the next question from Pigeonhole Club. Are you part of a slate of candidates? Do you support slate politics in municipal government? Bonita, you have 1 minute to respond to the question.
Thank you. I'm actually really happy that I got this question because it was brought up earlier in the night, and I have to say before I answer that, I don't think anyone should be discriminated against, and that includes their political leanings. There is a number of political leanings on our council. We all know that there's ex-MLAs and people that have run before. We even have someone that's been in Ottawa. So I just would like to say that before I start. Definitely what we're doing right now isn't working. Only 1 out of 5 people come out to vote because it's difficult to vote. The research says they don't know who to vote for. I'm a part of a team of 5 strong leaders that have come together to say we're about affordability, we're about a clean environment, we're about fun and safety, and we're about focusing on your local economy for good paying jobs. That's what we're about, and that's what we're telling the citizens of Coquitlam.
Thank you, Bonita. Dennis, you have 1 minute to respond to the question.
I'm not part of a slate of counties. I've run provincially, and I think that's where parties belong, at the provincial and federal level. They don't belong here at the civic level.
We can please hold the applause, ladies and gentlemen. We can please hold the applause.
To look and say that the residents of Coquitlam are not smart enough to make the decision on who they want, I think is an insult. And I think we've got the opportunity, you've received the brochures in the mail, you can do your research, and you select who it is you want to represent you. Yes, we want more engagement, but a slate is not the solution for that.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you could hold your applause, please, for Dennis, thank you very much. Brent, you have 1 minute to respond to the question.
I'm not part of the slate. I do not believe in slates in local politics. I don't believe whether it's a liberal, conservative, NDP, Green, should be directly involved. We're not a team of 5, we're a team of 9. I've been council for 3 terms, 9 years. Council has to work together for all of you in this community, not for other beholden to other party policies and their directions and what they want. We have to listen to you and do what you believe is the best thing for this city. I'm staying as a local politician. I'm never going to run for federal provincial politics because I came from the community as a president of the Northeast Ratepayers Association. I believe in communities, and we shouldn't have slates and party politics in local government. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This brings to an end the debate section. So, Municipal, Dennis Marsden, and Ben Asmunsen, if you take your seats, please. With that, we